This is West Dakota Fox News at 9 with Molly Martinez and meteorologist Henry Blakes. Your first news of the night starts right now on West Dakota Fox News at 9.
We begin tonight with severe storm systems rolling through the area. Let's send it right over to meteorologist Henry Blakes. Parkland survivors and other activists with the March for Our Lives movement made a pit stop on their road to change here in Bismarck. Megan Hoffman and Daniela Hurtado tell us about the message they are conveying across the nation.
This is the students' second stop in North Dakota on Wednesday. They were on the Standing Rock Reservation working to spread their message.
We don't want Bismarck to be the next Parkland. We don't want anywhere to be the next Parkland.
Students from Parkland on stage with students from schools in Bismarck and Standing Rock sharing thoughts and stories about what they think needs to be done to stop shootings and gun violence.
We believe in the use of the Second Amendment to protect your family, and we also believe in the same way that we have a right to bear arms, we as children have a right to live.
The stop in Bismarck is just one of dozens they're taking across the country this summer as they ask for universal background checks, a ban on high-capacity magazines, and more. Bismarck resident Liz Schneider also advocating for those changes alongside the Parkland activists.
Because, it's going to happen here eventually. It's small, might take a little time, but it will happen.
While I'm inside at this March for Our Lives event, Daniela Hurtado is outside at a different type of event. Daniela?
Megan, a little louder but a lot hotter out here, but let's go ahead and just show you the crowd. There are more than 90 people out here for this event, for the Second Amendment rally, and as you can see, lots of people voicing their opinions and showing their support for their right to bear arms. And there were a lot of different speakers this afternoon that spoke about their right to bear arms, the Second Amendment rights, and everything they hold near and dear to their heart. Now, I spoke to one man who tells me that he spoke to the March for Our Lives students earlier this afternoon, and he says they have common grounds, but not exactly the same way on getting there.
Things that we've came to a common ground on are that we need to do something about gun deaths in this country. How we implement that is probably different, but the biggest thing that we came to agreement on is one, there's gun deaths are an issue, and two, we need to start having this conversation more about how maybe we can curb them and maybe not having such a diverse radical separation.
People say they will continue to fight fearlessly to protect their right to bear arms. Reporting from the Bismarck Event Center for West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm Daniela Hurtado.
The man accused of attacking Animus priest Robert Wapinski is heading to trial. 43-year-old Chad Lagar faces charges of attempted murder, aggravated assault, and burglary stemming from the attack on that priest on January 30th. Lagar pled not guilty to all three charges and could face up to 30 years in prison if convicted.
This is a Class A felony. The maximum penalty you can receive is 20 years in jail and a $20,000 fine.
Will return to the Montgomery County Courthouse on October 5th ahead of his trial date for his pre-trial conference. We're learning more tonight about the two men found dead in Mandan on Wednesday. According to Mandan police, the victims were 30 and 62 years old. Police say a fire broke out inside a home. Both men appear to have died of smoke inhalation. BCI and the state fire marshals are investigating the fires and their deaths. Despite protests from Native American and climate change protesters, Minnesota's Public Utilities Commission today approved Enbridge Energy's proposal for replacing a deteriorating oil pipeline. But the fight is still likely to end up in court. Enbridge currently runs Line 3 at about half of its original capacity for safety reasons. A short segment of Line 3 in Wisconsin has already been replaced, and construction is underway on the segments across northeastern North Dakota from Alberta to the U.S. border. If the project moves forward in Minnesota, opponents, including the indigenous-based environmental group Honor the Earth, are threatening DAPL-scale protests. As Henry mentioned, we're in the thick of some severe weather right now, which could swell the Missouri River over its banks. Here's an aerial look at the river from earlier today. As of 6:30 this evening, the river levels were at 13.16 feet. Minor flood stage is about 14.5 feet. If you own mineral rights, there's a lot you need to know to make sure you're getting your fair share. The National Association of Royalty Owners meets occasionally to help interpret documents people get in the mail from oil companies, such as pipeline easements or division orders.
There are things that are being done that we're working on to post-production deductions. We think the companies are taking more than what they should or shoveling it off on some of their costs off onto the mineral owners.
For more information, you can go to naro-us.org. Talking taxes, North Dakota has had a 10% increase in its sales tax income between last year and this year's first quarter. North Dakota's 4 largest cities, however, have actually seen a decrease in revenue. John Salling shows us why.
Retail sales are up, but not for everyone across North Dakota.
We did see most of the growth in the west, but throughout the rest of the state, when you look at the middle and the eastern part of the state, we did see the numbers down a bit.
Much of the growth is attributed to the oil industry and oil production reaching near record highs this year.
And along with that, of course, comes a lot of economic activity, and along with that economic activity comes a tremendous growth in the amount of sales tax that the oil and gas industry pays in those big 4 Bakken counties.
Rauschenberger says soon that won't be the only reason sales tax revenue is rising.
The recent Supreme Court decision now allowing states to have online retailers collect and remit state sales tax, we think that will be a positive going forward.
The tax commissioner is cautiously optimistic about further sales tax revenue increases in the future. For West Dakota Fox News at 9, I'm John Salling.
New Generations Park on Valley Drive in Bismarck is getting a $1 million makeover. New features will include an outdoor hockey rink, a splash pad, and a warming house. 40% of the cost will be covered by sponsors and a grant. The rinks should be ready by winter and the splash pad by next summer. The president is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin today, where he was met with protesters. Groups holding signs and bullhorns snaked through downtown, chanting that the commander-in-chief was not welcome. First Lady Melania Trump visits the Border Patrol facility in Tucson, Arizona. This was earlier today. Mrs. Trump held a roundtable discussion with U.S. Marshals and border agents and also toured the base. It's the second trip the First Lady has made to the border since the controversy over a policy separating immigrant families illegally crossing into the U.S. Sweeping arrests outside an immigration facility in Portland, Oregon today. The U.S. Attorney's Office in Oregon said officers started a law enforcement action to reopen the facility run by ICE. Protesters forced the facility to shut down on June 20th. They began camping out at the building on June 17th after learning that the White House has a zero-tolerance policy and was leading family separations at the Mexican border. Fast-moving details coming out of Annapolis, Maryland tonight after a gunman opens fire inside the Capital Gazette newsroom, killing several staff. Omar Jimenez is in Annapolis with the latest.
Several shots have been fired, possible shotgun, at least 10 shots heard.
Authorities responded to a shooting at the offices of a local newspaper.
There's been a terrible tragedy here in Anne Arundel County. There was an active shooter incident. 5 people are dead, several more are wounded and in the care of Anne Arundel Medical Center. The shooter is in our custody and being interrogated as we speak.
The gunman opened fire inside the Capital Gazette's newsroom. Multiple people were killed in the gunfire, several others were injured. Police responded quickly.
They were on the scene in about 60 seconds, but beyond that, they went immediately into that building without a moment's hesitation and demonstrated incredible courage.
The gunman was taken into custody, but authorities say he was not initially cooperative with law enforcement.
We don't have an identification on him yet. We do know he's a white male, adult male, and the gun that was used is described as a long gun.
Maryland Governor Larry Hogan says he's, quote, devastated and warns people to stay away from the area. State and federal investigators are now combing through the scene, trying to determine what motivated the gunman to open fire.
All right, let's take another check on our severe weather with meteorologist Henry Blakes. There is a soon-to-be open seat on the Supreme Court. Today in Washington, the bickering over Justice Kennedy's replacement has already begun. Reporter Doug McElway shows us some of those who made their way onto the shortlist.
Mitch McConnell, shame on you.
A taste of what's to come as progressive groups today jeered President Trump's potential choices for the high court, even though no nominee has been named.
Everyone who cares about saving Roe versus Wade will make their voice heard, right? Yeah!
Moments earlier, the Senate Majority Leader derided Democrats' blanket opposition to any Trump pick.
The idea that any of them, let alone all of them, would be automatically unacceptable is totally absurd.
The betting is on 5 or 6 candidates from the list of 25 compiled by the Conservative Federalist Society, which maintains there was no abortion litmus test. Among the frontrunners, 53-year-old Brett Kavanaugh. He has a consistent conservative record on the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. A potential downside, he's a D.C. insider, raised here, a veteran of the George W. Bush administration. Thomas Hardiman, age 52. His record of opinions shows strong fidelity to the Constitution. He is the first in his family to go to college, but he was the runner-up to Neil Gorsuch. His moment may have passed. Raymond Kethledge, age 51. He clerked for Justice Kennedy and served as an aide on the Senate Judiciary Committee. Amy Coney Barrett, age 46. In her confirmation hearing for the Court of Appeals, she successfully deflected Democratic attacks that her Catholic faith was too dogmatic.
After the break, a goose-eyed view of the capital city. Now through Sunday, you could take a historic flight from Bismarck. A 1929 Ford tri-motor Tin Goose plane is offering rides. The Tin Goose was manufactured by Henry Ford, and the aircraft flew in Cuba and the Dominican Republic. For more information, you can go to flytheford.org. All right, let's send it over now to Henry for another check on this wild weather.
Yes, the weather's pretty wild on our Williston Skywatch camera. Looking at it live, lots of lightning, lots of rain coming down in Williston. You are under a severe thunderstorm warning, so remain indoors until this storm pushes through. Lots of heavy rain coming down from eastern Montana as the cold front pushes through the region. Once again, Williston, you are under a severe thunderstorm warning. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and take a look. Here we go. Severe thunderstorm warning for McKenzie and Williams County, and that continues until 9:45. So this is Williston, but notice we do have a big line of thunderstorms extending all the way into southeastern Montana that will be making its way into central North Dakota later on tonight. Remaining under that risk for severe weather, especially in the central region, Molly. We will be keeping you informed throughout the night.
All right, stay safe, and we'll see you tomorrow.